why didn't your WWE run work out? And have you ever had an offer to come back there in the past?
Uh, why didn't it work out? I don't know. I think you could put different people go through different things and have different experiences everywhere they go. I think my very short time there was a very different time in the business for the company, for myself. I remember I had a conversation with Batista one time because he was still heavily involved when I first got on the road with them. And he was like, man, I wouldn't want to be a heel in this day and age wrestling because, and this was like in 2009 also, because he was like, it's so hard to be a heel because all the little basic bad guy heel things that we used to could do to cheat, what he's saying, like when he first got into the business or even when he first got on the road with them, they had kind of been taken away. They were looking at it more straight sport oriented, very kind of like the UFC had such a strong influence. They were extremely PG back then. So there were just so many things that we just weren't allowed to do to be a heel. And I'm not saying that really is what caused my time there not to be good. I think there was goods and bads. Like my story about when I even debuted there, and this was like November of 2009. I'd been down in Florida at SCW, which is pre NXT and all that stuff. And I got called up on the road. I literally was at home. I think it was like a Saturday, and I got a call or an email or something. It was like, "Hey, we need you for TV on Tuesday," which is when they taped SmackDown and ECW at the time. And a lot of times, guys and girls that get put up on the road, and it's just to take a look at them, see what they can do, see what they can offer, and then decisions are made later. I was debuting on their ECW product because this was before NXT even existed. So I was debuting on their ECW product, and nobody had told me. And it wasn't until the morning of when Joey Styles, who was still heavily involved with the website stuff, he basically came to me and he was like, "Oh, hey man, it's good to see you on the road. I'll get all your information for your profile later." And I went, "My profile later?" And he goes, "Yeah, you're debuting tonight." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then fast forward, we're at the arena, we're getting ready, and everything's kind of being set up and whatnot. And at the time, I had long hair and I had I had this very strong biker gimmick look going on. And this was something I'd been doing in FCW for a long time, or the 6 months I'd been there. And I remember being in the ring about 5 minutes before doors open. The former owner of the company, we'll leave it at that. You can figure out who that is. He and another guy who talks like this. "Hey kid, do you know who I'm talking about? You know who this is?" They were standing there talking to each other while I'm standing in the ring. I mean, it's literally like 5 minutes before doors are going to open. I mean, like the staff is coming in, they're seeing us all standing around there. They're literally about to start letting fans rush into the building. I mean, literally like 5 minutes before doors. And all of a sudden, the rescue man voice goes, "Hey kid, come here." It's like, "What's up, man?" He goes, "We're cutting your hair." I go, "Okay, am I still on TV tonight?" And he goes, "Yeah, but go do it." And so they went and like sent me to the hair and makeup lady, and she started chopping at my hair. And like I had hair down to my butt almost, and like she chopped it up. And like they wanted to originally do like this weird like Bieber look, and my hair wouldn't do that, and I looked like I had a mushroom head. And but they did take me into the big boss's office. They were like, "Okay, how's this?" And he goes, "Yes, I like it. Get out." And it was just like, okay. Like, I always say they turned me into big guy number three. And I debuted and I did my thing. And for a few weeks, it was going really fun and strong. And, then ECW itself shut down. Shelton Benjamin and I had a few fun, good matches, kind of had to the second last ECW show. We had a nice hardcore match or an ECW rules match, or whatever they called it back then. But then, everything kind of went on the shelf and I didn't know what was going on. And they put me on SmackDown, but I didn't do anything for like 3 or 4 months. And then Brian Myers, or Kurt Hawkins as he was then, like called me one more night when we got to somewhere Virginia or something like that. And he's like, "Hey man," he goes, "You at the hotel?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, you?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Cool, man. Are you back on the road?" And he goes, "Remember that angle I pitched like way back when you first showed up the company?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, they're going to put us together." And then it was like, okay, cool. And then the next day, they were like, we're going to film all these vignettes. We're going to do all this stuff that kind of helped start introducing you guys. And then as the day went on, nothing happened. As the day went on, nothing happened. As the day went on, nothing happened. And then they're like, we don't have time to do that. So you guys just go like go do a dark match. So we did. And then we'll get to it next week. And then the next week came and same thing. Like they were like, we're going to film all this stuff. You guys are showing up. We're going to film you in front of the trucks. Like you're invading and blah, blah, blah. Nothing ever happened. It was just all of a sudden they threw us on Superstars or something like that. So our debut together was Superstars. And then fast forward to a few matches on SmackDown, and then it just kind of disappeared. And, there was no real explanation to it. So why didn't it go well? I don't know. I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons, and somebody didn't like me. Who knows what the case was, but it just didn't. It was what it was. It ultimately led to the best time in my career. When I started working with Japan, I'd worked in Japan a few times before that, but, not knowing how influential Japanese wrestling would be to me, myself, and my career, had I just maintained my existence there, it probably would have never happened. So, blessing in disguise. It only lasted a very short period of time, like 2 years under contract, a year and a half, like on TV or something like that. So I don't know. You tell me why it didn't work.
Man, I'll tell you what, the impressions work though. There's some really underrated impressions of those two gentlemen. And actually, we had a question coming up and sort of
Yes.
man, it's incredible. It's like uncanny. And we've got a related question here from
Okay.
Jazz who
What's up?
asks, what can you tell us about your interactions with Vince McMahon? I know he's like we're not supposed to say his name, like Voldemort or whatever.
I had very short ones. It was like to the point where the night I was debuting, he was like, don't fuck it up. You only get one chance to make a first impression. I was like, okay. And then I think later there was one moment, like I was walking down the hallway and he's like, you guys are kicking ass. Yes. I love it. And he just walked off. And that was about it. I didn't have much more interaction from my whole time there. I do remember, so the funny story. So basically, that time between ECW and when I was on SmackDown, I was working dark matches here and there. And this was before anything was all taped and put on and whatnot. And so anyway, I go and do this match. Oh, I think it was actually the dark match that Hawkins and I did together for our first time. And we go out we do the match. We come back to the curtain, and Billy Kidman, who's at Gorilla at the time, he's like, hey, and my name then was Vance. It's like, hey, Vance. I was like, what's up, man? He goes, Vince likes your beard. And I went, what? And he goes, he likes your beard. And I go, okay. And I kind of gave him a thumbs up and went off. And later, because I still had to go down and do the FCW Thursday tapings at the time that they were doing, he told the story afterwards. And I think it was just kind of like a, hey, you never know what's going to draw somebody's attention story. And so basically what happened was I guess we were out in the ring and we're doing our thing. And I can only guess that they did like a close up on my face. And I'd been growing a beard for, several months at this point. So it had gone from pretty close shaven ECW to pretty grizzled, beard going on. And I'd shaken his hand and said hello for 3 months straight. But again, I was never somebody that was on his radar. So he didn't pay attention ever. And then this one time, like I'm sure he was in his office and we were just on the screen and they did this close up of my face and the beard was popping at the moment, and he called into Billy and then Billy told me. And like, I think I remember like the next week was when we were on SmackDown for the first time, so it was a really interesting experience that he liked my beard.
That's a powerful beard, dude. Got you on
It
SmackDown.
was. Yes, it was.
So I gotta see this beard. I'm gonna go back and
Yeah,
look for this
I'm
match.
sure you can look up some horrible pictures of me, but go for it.